I don't dream that night. Not really. I drift in and out of the same memory, replaying it from different angles, trying to catch proof that it wasn't real. The knock on my door, the silver eyes in the dark, his hand closing around my wrist, the fire in my skin going soft like it knew him. By the time my alarm finally goes off, thin and tinny in the gray pre-dawn, I feel like I haven't slept at all. I lie there for a second, staring at the underside of the bunk above me. My roommate is still snoring softly. One arm is thrown over the edge of her mattress, fingers dangling in the air like she might catch a dream if it falls past. For a moment, I almost convinced myself it was all a stress hallucination. Exams. Too much caffeine. Not enough food. Arkenfall cracking me down the middle. I lift my arm. The mark is waiting for me. Valen in dark ink black script curves along the inside of my wrist. It sits there like my skin grew around it on purpose. It's not burning now. The edges are a little tender, like a half-healed bruise. When I touch it lightly, heat flares under my fingertip, sharp enough to pull in a breath. Okay, I whisper into the cold morning light. Still here. Still his. The word slips through my mind before I can stop it. Mine, he'd said, like it was a fact older than either of us. I let my arm drop to my chest and close my eyes again. I could go to the administration office, show them, ask if there's some procedure for undoing a mark that wasn't made in the circle. There has to be something in the rules about this. There are binders full of regulations for every tiny thing at Arkenfall. Dress codes, curfew, how long you're allowed to loiter in the courtyard. Somewhere, there has to be a page for this. But when I picture myself standing at that high, polished counter, trying to explain that the owner of the academy broke some ancient magical protocol to put his name in my skin, my stomach twists. They'd either laugh or they'd believe me. I don't know which is worse. The alarm keeps chiming, insistent. I slap it off and sit up. The room is freezing, the radiator hissing weakly in protest. I swing my legs over the edge and shiver when my feet hit the cold floor. Glass. If I don't move, life will. It always does. I tug on my uniform mechanically. White shirt, charcoal skirt, worn cardigan that used to belong to someone else's older sister. Then I stand in front of the crooked mirror nailed to the wardrobe and roll my sleeves down. The fabric slides over the mark. It reacts instantly. Heat blooms beneath the cuff, slow but unmistakable, like the touch of a palm from the inside out. I'm hiding you, I murmur to my own reflection. Get used to it. The glow dims. Through cotton and skin, it's barely visible, a subdued ember. My eyes look different today. Maybe it's the lack of sleep, the half moons of shadow beneath them. Or maybe it's the knowledge that somewhere, in the labyrinth of stone and glass that is Arkenfall Academy, there's a man with my name carved into his night, and his stamped into my flesh. I force my gaze away from the mirror, grab my bag, and slip quietly out of the dorm room before my roommate wakes up. I don't want to explain why my hands are shaking. By the time the sun drags itself over the jagged spires of Arkenfall, the campus is already awake. The central courtyard hums with voices and footsteps. Metal clinks as someone drops a coffee tumbler too hard against a stone bench. Students stream between buildings in perfectly pressed uniforms and expensive coats. Laughter echoes off old stone. I pull my thrift store jacket tighter and try to disappear into the flow. I'm good at this part. Head down. Notebooks hugged to my chest. Walk like you're going somewhere important, like you have a right to be here. The air tastes damp and metallic, like it might rain later. Somewhere, the tower bells toll the quarter hour. Under my sleeve, the mark stirs. Not a burn this time, more like a prickle, a sudden awareness of my own pulse. I stop at the edge of the courtyard, frowning. My heart isn't racing. I'm not late. Nothing is. Laughter breaks out behind me. I turn my head just enough to see a cluster of upper years lounging under one of the carved archways. They watch everyone drift past. Their blazers are embroidered with delicate silver thread around the cuffs and collars. Tiny sigils mark them as part of one of the old houses. Old blood. Old money? One of the girls, all sharp cheekbones and perfect eyeliner, lets her gaze sweep the courtyard. It snags on me. It's only for a second, but in that second she looks at me like she's seeing past the cheap jacket and the scholarship anonymity to something else. Something shining. Her eyes dip as if she can see straight through wool and skin to the black letters on my wrist. She leans toward the boy next to her and whispers. His gaze follows hers. They both go very still. The mark responds with a hot, pulsing flare that makes me catch my breath. I snap my eyes away and force my feet to move. One step, then another. Like the stone under my shoes might open up if I stay too long in one place. You're imagining it, I tell myself. People stare at you all the time. You're the scholarship girl? The one who works in the library and tutors in the basement and can't afford the meal plan that includes coffee. This is normal. But as I cross the courtyard, I feel eyes following me. Snatches of conversation break off when I pass. A pair of first years whisper behind their hands, their gazes flicking to my covered wrists. They can't know. They can't. The mark pulses once, slow and deliberate. Agreement or denial. I can't tell which. I keep walking. My first class is Advanced Arcane Theory in one of the older lecture halls. It has narrow seats and long sloping rows, like the whole room was built to funnel attention down onto the professor. I slip into a seat halfway up in the middle. Safest place to be invisible. Usually I can lose myself here. The math of magic is a distraction, I understand. Symbols, correspondences, equations that bind the intangible world into something you can write on a board and test on an exam. Today, my focus frays at the edges. The professor drones on about the historical uses of the marking circle in pre-convergence rituals. My pen moves on autopilot, but the words might as well be in another language. Marking circle. I underline the term without meaning to. The circle, the professor is saying, was always meant to be a public covenant. Witnessed, recorded, and bound not only by magic but by law. It is in theory impossible to alter or circumvent the terms once set. The mark under my sleeve throbs with quiet heat, as if in dissent. In theory, the professor repeats with a wry little smile. Of course there are stories, legends, whispers of bonds formed outside the sanctioned rites, private claims, dark pacts. The air in the room shifts. It's subtle. A tension in the oxygen. The way the tiny hairs on my arms stand on end. I breathe in, and the scent of old paper and chalk dust is cut through by something colder. Ozone. The faintest hint of winter smoke. The mark tightens. The heat sharpening into a burn. My pen stops moving. Don't, I beg silently, though I'm not sure if I'm talking to my skin or to whatever it's reacting to. Not here. Not in front of... I don't turn around. I don't have to. I feel him. Like a change in pressure. Like the way the sea knows when a storm is still miles away. The door at the back of the lecture hall closes with a soft, final click. The professor's words falter, then smooth themselves out again with practiced poise. Ah, Mr. Valen, how good of you to join us. Valen. The entire row in front of me stiffens almost imperceptibly. He walks down the aisle with unhurried steps, as if the class simply reshapes itself around his lateness. Each stride brings a fresh wave of heat crashing against the inside of my wrist, synchronized with my heartbeat, until I can't tell where one ends and the other begins. I keep my eyes on my notebook. One more step. Another. The mark is burning now, not unbearable, but bright and insistent, like a hand pressed over my pulse. He stops somewhere to my left. The professor clears his throat. As I was saying, the marking circle was designed to prevent unilateral claims. Until the reforms, both parties had to consent and be present. Otherwise, Kade Valen says. His voice is quiet, but it slides under the professor's and becomes the new center of gravity. You were left with a bond the law couldn't quite recognize, but the magic could never forget. The room goes silent. My bones remember that voice. Last night he spoke just as softly, not needing volume to make me feel cornered. Velvet, controlled cadence. A blade wrapped in silk. My fingers curl around my pen. Ink smudges along the edge of my notes. "Is that correct, Professor?" he adds mildly. A beat of tension. Then the professor chuckles, uneasy. "Yes, well, that is one way some scholars have described it, Mr. Valen. Though in our official curriculum, we focus on the sanctioned applications." A few students laugh on cue. I don't. I can't. Every nerve ending in my wrist is on fire. The mark pulses in time with the awareness of him. He isn't touching me. I'm not even sure he's looking at me. And still my body knows. "Please, take a seat," the professor says, relief bleeding into his tone. There's an empty spot 3 chairs down from me. I know it's there because I chose this row and that gap on purpose, leaving space so I wouldn't have to make eye contact with anyone. The seat creaks as someone sinks into it. Air moves. The burn in my wrist spikes and settles into a deep, aching heat. Slowly, because I can't help it, I let my gaze flick sideways. Silver eyes, closer than in my dreams. He lounges in his chair like this is the front row of a show he commissioned. Dark uniform perfectly tailored. Tie loosened just enough to suggest he obeys the dress code out of amusement, not obligation. He doesn't look at the professor. He looks at my hand. My sleeve rides up a fraction when I move my fingers, just enough to hint at ink under skin. His mouth curves. I snap my gaze back to my notes as if they might save me. The professor resumes his lecture. Words about consent and covenants and historical precedent wash over the room. Under the desk, my hand curls into a fist. The mark responds. Heat pulses like a yes. I try to ignore him for the rest of class. I fail. Every time he shifts his weight, I feel it. When his pen taps once against his notebook, my mark flares. When he exhales a quiet, bored breath, the sound coils through the space between us and settles low in my spine. I don't look at him again. I don't have to. I feel watched without being touched, known without being seen. By the time the bell rings, my wrist feels raw. Students stand, chairs scrape, paper rustles. Conversation comes back to life. I pack my things quickly, like I might outrun the gravity well sitting 3 chairs away. My bag is over my shoulder and my hand is on the strap when a shadow falls across my desk. "Miss." His voice is soft, pitched for me alone. "Marrow." I freeze. He remembers my name. Of course he does. He put his on my skin. I look up. From this close, his eyes are even worse. Not just silver, pale gray threaded with darker shards, like cracked ice. They take me in without hurry. My face, the tension in my shoulders, the way I'm half turned toward the aisle like I'm already in motion. His gaze drops once to my covered wrist. Is it behaving? He asks, amusement ghosting around the edges of his words. I did tell you it would stop burning. It's fine, I manage. My voice comes out a little hoarse. Thank you. One dark brow lifts. You're thanking me. I'm thanking you for not marking me in the circle where everyone could see. The words tumble out clumsy and wrong. They hang between us like a confession. His smile is slow and small. It doesn't reach his eyes. Somehow it still makes the air feel thinner. You think this a mercy, he says. I swallow. Isn't it? His hand moves. Before I can flinch, his fingers brush my cuff. Just a fraction, as if he's adjusting an invisible thread. The mark erupts in warmth, liquid and dizzying. Not like a burn, like something else, like having your name whispered against bare skin. I bite back a sound. His gaze sharpens, tracking every tiny reaction. You should be careful, he murmurs, with how you think about mercy. At the front of the room, the professor clears his throat loudly, reminding everyone he exists. Students are still filing out. Kade straightens, raking a hand through his dark hair. It's an easy, careless motion, like he's resetting the scene. Don't forget, he adds, almost casually. Midnight, the after-dark ball, the old tree. My heart stutters. I haven't said I'm going, I blurt. No, he agrees. You haven't. He steps past me, the scent of cold air and something darker trailing after him. At the doorway, without looking back, he says, but the mark doesn't like being ignored. Then he's gone, swallowed by a tide of students who part for him without realizing they're doing it. I sit there long after the room empties. My pulse thuds against my wrist. His name glows faintly under my skin like an answer I don't remember asking for. The whispers get louder after that. At first I tell myself I'm imagining them, that the eyes following me down the hall and the conversations that cut off when I pass are just imposter syndrome, Arkenfall edition. But by lunchtime, lying to myself is pointless. 2 girls at the end of my table in the dining hall huddle over their phones, giggling. I swear it lit up, one whispers. I saw it at the circle last term. Kyle Wren's mark, full-on flash when she walked in. This one's different, though, the other murmurs. No ceremony, no announcement, just suddenly someone has ink and no one knows who put it there, or how. You mean the scholarship girl? I freeze halfway through a bite of apple. My eyes stay on the table, on the scratches and initials carved into the wood. My hearing sharpens. Yeah, her. Elara, the first girl says. You've seen the way she moves lately? Like the halls are watching her? Maybe they are, the second girl replies in a mock ominous voice. Then lower. You think it's true? That he... Their voices drop too low for me to catch the rest. I set the apple down. My appetite is gone. It's not just them. In the breadline, a boy in house colors glances at my hands and then away too fast. In the library, 2 students at the next table keep shooting looks at my sleeve, as if waiting for it to light up. No one asks me directly. No one has to. Rumors at Arkenfall work like spells. Say them a few times in the right circles, and they build their own reality. Scholarship girl. Unregistered mark. Valen. By the time my afternoon break arrives, I feel like my skin is too tight. I retreat to the only place that has ever felt entirely mine. The archives. The main library is a cathedral of shelves and filtered sunlight. The archives below are another world. The air is colder. Dust motes drift in the dim light. There's a faint tang of iron from old bindings. Rows of glass-fronted cases stretch away like a maze. The moment the heavy door swings shut behind me, my shoulders drop. No open laughter. No gossip. Just the quiet, patient presence of things that don't care who you are, as long as you handle them gently. I flash my student worker badge at the sensor and slip behind the main desk. Instead of heading to the cart of returns, I veer left, deeper into the stacks. Arcane law, marking rituals, covenants, and contracts. The titles are a map of my panic. I pull out a volume at random. Its leather is cracked, the gold lettering almost worn away. On the binding of souls and names, my heart jumps. I carry it to a narrow table under a single reading lamp and open it. The pages smell like dust and secrets. I flip through until a phrase catches my eye. While the marking circle is now the predominant, regulated form of bonding, the text reads, "Older traditions persist in the shadows. These claims are often private, effected without witnesses, and rely less on the ritual circle than on direct contact, blood, skin, or breath." My fingers tighten on the page. In such cases, the law does not always recognize the bond, but the magic does. The mark, once manifested, is not easily severed, as it is born of will rather than ceremony. Two souls, one choosing, the other chosen, sealed by intent rather than consent. I read the line again. Two souls, one choosing, the other chosen. But that's not, I whisper. My voice catches. I didn't choose. Did I? Last night, I opened the door. I didn't slam it. I didn't scream. I didn't pull my wrist away when he touched it and the burn eased under his fingers. I stood there and let it happen. The thought makes my stomach pitch. I turn the page. There are sketches of marks. At wrists at the base of the throat, over the heart. Dark script at places where the skin is thinnest. Midway down the next page, a passage hooks me. Those who are claimed in this manner report heightened sensitivity whenever the claimant is near. Heat, pressure, a sense of being watched even across a crowded room. Proximity often triggers an instinctive response from the mark, as if aware of its origin. I close my eyes. Heat in the lecture hall. Silver eyes on my hand. I don't need the book to tell me what my body already knows. The mark is his. It reacts to him like metal to a magnet. "What are you doing here, little librarian?" The voice drifts over my shoulder like a shadow. I jump. The book jerks under my hands. I didn't hear the door. I didn't hear footsteps, but the mark does. It wakes up under my skin, from prickle to a steady thrum that spreads up my arm and into my chest. Slowly, I look up. Kade Valen leans against the end of the shelf opposite my table, arms folded loosely, watching me with open curiosity. His blazer is gone. The white of his shirt glows faintly in the dim light. His collar is open, his throat bare. He looks wildly out of place down here, a storm cloud in a museum. "I work here," I say, a little too fast. "Remember?" His gaze flicks to the badge on my sweater, then back to my face. I remember, he says. You stamped my late fees into oblivion last term. Very noble of you. You had late fees? I asked. Everyone breaks rules they wrote, Elara. The way he says my name, soft, deliberate, sends a shiver down my spine. I close the book slowly, pressing my palm over the text. I'm on break, I lie. I was just reading. On the binding of souls and names, he recites, tilting his head to read the cover. Light reading. It was on the shelf, I say weakly. Everything here is on the shelf. You chose that one. He's right. I hate that he's right. I hate that part of me wants a name for what he did. I chose it for class, I say. Arcane theory. We're studying the circle, and I thought. He laughs quietly. It's not cruel. Not exactly. But it still pins me in place. You're a terrible liar, he observes. The mark pulses, hot and agreeing. I tug my cuff down as if that could stop him from seeing. His eyes follow the movement. Does it hurt? He asks. No, I answer too fast. His gaze lifts to mine. I make myself hold it. After a moment, he walks closer. Each unhurried step thickens the air with the same electric charge I felt in the lecture hall. He stops on the other side of the table. The lamp casts a small circle of light between us, over the book in my hands. May I? He asks. The question startles me. May you what? His eyes flick down toward my wrist, then back up again. You know. My heart bangs once against my ribs. Last night he touched me without asking, as if my consent was a formality. Now, in the quiet of the archives, he stands very still. His hands hang loosely at his sides. Only his gaze moves, tracing the line of my covered mark. I should say no. I should walk out. Report him. Run. Just for a moment, I hear myself say. His lashes lower in acknowledgement. He reaches out. This time, I brace for the heat. His fingers ghost over my cuff, then press lightly, directly above the letters of his name. The mark flares. My breath catches. It doesn't hurt. It feels like someone turned up the volume on my nerves. Every inch of skin under his touch is overwhelmingly alive, bright, raw, and hungry in a way that scares me. I close my eyes for a heartbeat. Better? He murmurs. I should lie. I should tell him it doesn't matter, that I barely notice, that this is nothing and he is nothing. It's worse, I whisper. Silence. It stretches out between us. I can feel the shape of his smile in it. When I touch it, he asks. When you're near. The words slip out before I can stop them. Fragile. Reckless. I open my eyes. He watches me like I'm the first interesting thing that's happened to him in a long time. Good, he says quietly. My heart stumbles. Good? If distance dulled it, he says, drawing his hand back. I'd have to keep you close to make sure you didn't forget. I'm trying to forget, I blurt. I'm trying to go to class. Do my job. Pretend this is some fever dream that will wear off if I ignore it long enough. How's that working out? He asks. His gaze dips to the open book. I follow it. 2 souls, one choosing, the other chosen. Not great. This isn't a fever dream, Elara, he says. His voice softens slightly. Ignoring it won't make it disappear. That's not how these things work. You broke the rules, I say, clinging to the anger because it's easier than everything else. The circle, the laws. My professor said unilateral marks aren't recognized by the council, he finishes. By administrators and professors and everyone else who thinks ink on parchment is what makes power real. Light catches in his eyes as he leans in a little. But the old magic doesn't care about their regulations. It never has. So that's it? I ask. You just, decided? And now I'm... The word jams in my throat. His. Marked. Owned. He studies me for a moment, then straightens. There are 3 days until the after dark ball, he says instead. Midnight, under the old tree. Wear something you don't mind ruining. You already said that, I snap, my voice hitches. Sometimes people need to hear things more than once before they accept them, he says calmly. I haven't said I'm coming. His smile turns sharp with confidence. You will. Don't. My voice cracks. Don't talk like you know me. I know enough, he says. You're in the archives reading about forbidden bonds on your break. You're not in the administration office filing a complaint. You're not running. You're trying to understand instead of undo. Heat rises in my cheeks. That doesn't mean... It means, he cuts in gently, that some part of you is curious about what this is, about what you can be with it. His gaze moves over my face. Who you are when you stop planning how to disappear. The words slide past my defenses and sink deep. I hate how true they feel. You think putting your name on me means you get to decide who I am? I whisper. No, he says at once. The answer is quick enough to surprise me. No, he repeats softer. That was always your choice. The mark doesn't make you mine. It just makes it harder to pretend you were ever free of me. My breath stutters. That's supposed to make me feel better? It's not supposed to make you feel anything, he says. It's just the truth. He steps back. The pressure in the air eases. 3 days, he reminds me. If you don't come, the mark will complain. Complain, I echo. You felt it in the lecture hall, he says. That was only a taste. The more you fight it, the louder it gets. His gaze drops to my wrist one last time. And if you do come, his eyes lift to mine, then we can have a different kind of conversation. My heart hammers. What kind? I ask, even though I'm not sure I want to hear the answer. He smiles, slow and dark. The kind you can't have in a classroom or a library. He turns and walks away before I can decide if I'm more furious, terrified, or something else entirely. The door closes behind him with a soft thunk. Silence rushes back in. I sit there staring at the empty space where he stood. My wrist throbs under my sleeve like a heartbeat out of sync with my own. For the next 2 days, the mark never lets me forget it's there. In class, it warms when someone says his name. In the cafeteria, it prickles when I walk past the table where he sometimes sits, even if the chair is empty. At night, lying in my narrow bed, I feel it pulse in the dark, matching the distant tolling of the tower bells. Midnight feels closer every time I close my eyes. Posters for the After Dark Ball appear everywhere. On bulletin boards. On doors. Projected in shimmery letters across the main stairwell. After dark. A midwinter masquerade. Music. Dancing. Masks. All the things that belong to people who don't count every dining hall credit. People who don't worry their scholarship will evaporate if they're seen with the wrong person. The wrong person? Or the only person whose name my skin knows in ink. I tell myself I'm not going. Every time I see a poster, I walk faster. When classmates gossip about who they're going with, I bury myself in notes. When my mark flares for no reason, I tell it, firmly, that I don't have a dress, I don't have shoes, I don't have time. On the second evening, a small, unmarked envelope appears on my bunk. No name, no seal, just thin ivory paper, folded with precise care. My roommate is out. The room is quiet, heavy with the smell of her vanilla body spray and my cheap laundry detergent. I sit on the edge of the mattress and turn the envelope over. The mark hums, low and expectant. Of course, I mutter. Of course you're involved. I break the seal with my thumb. Inside is a single card. One side carries the ball's crest in dark ink, a stylized mask tangled with thorns and stars. On the other side, written in that same familiar elegant script as the mark on my wrist, are 4 words. Don't make me come. My heart lurches. That's not an invitation, I tell the empty room. That's a threat. The mark pulses once. I still can't tell if that means agreement. I set the card on my pillow and stand too quickly. In the wardrobe mirror, my reflection looks cornered. Eyes too bright, cheeks flushed, mouth pressed into a line that wants to be resolved and doesn't quite make it. I'm not going, I tell her. She doesn't look convinced. The day of the ball dawns gray and wet. Rain drums against the dorm window, steady and relentless, turning stone paths into dark, gleaming rivers. Students buzz with a different energy, nervous, excited. Conversations shift from exams to outfits, hair, and mysterious dates. Even some professors seem lighter. They let class out early and pretend not to notice the way everyone checks their phones for messages decorated with little moons and masks. I move through it all like a ghost. By late afternoon, the mark has settled into a low, constant ache. It feels like it's holding its breath. My last tutoring session runs long. The first year I'm helping with conjuration is sweet and eager, but hopeless with sigils. I try to focus on her questions and not the mark gnawing under my skin. Halfway through, explaining the difference between a summoning seal and an anchoring one, the tower bell rings 5 times. 5 o'clock. 7 hours until midnight. The mark surges hot enough to make me flinch. Are you okay? My student asks. I'm fine, I say tightly. Just a long day? Let's do that last problem one more time. By the time I finally make it back to my dorm, the sky is black. The hallway hums with hairdryers, laughter, and music leaking under doors. Someone down the hall is blasting a playlist full of heavy bass and dark pulsing beats. My roommate is already gone when I push open our door. There's a note taped to my bunk. L, went early to help set up. You sure you don't want to come? It's supposed to be insane this year. Text me if you change your mind. C. I stare at the exclamation point after insane until it blurs. The mark is a steady, insistent throb. It feels like someone knocking from inside my wrist. I said no, I whisper to it. I can't show up to a ball hosted by the man who did this, wearing the same cardigan I wear to the archives. It doesn't answer, it just burns. I could stay, I could climb into bed, pull the blanket over my head, and let the night happen without me. But the music, the laughter, and the secrets swirl above, safely out of reach. Pretend the heat in my arm is just a fever. Pretend the envelope, the card, the lecture hall, the archives, him, are all pieces of a story I can shelve and forget if I try hard enough. Or I could go, just to see, just to prove that stepping into his world doesn't mean I'll be swallowed by it. Just to find out what happens when, for once in my life, I don't run. His voice echoes in my memory, that night in my room. The terrifying realization that, for once, I wasn't planning how to disappear. I was waiting to see what happened if I stayed. My chest tightens. I hate you, I say to the air. I don't specify who I mean. Him, myself, the mark. It's probably all three. My feet move before my brain catches up. I drag my old suitcase out from under the bed. It's the same one I brought from home, packed with 3 sets of clothes and a handful of books. Buried under a sweater I never wear is a dress. I bought it on clearance the summer before Arkenfall. Tip money from the coffee shop. A thin hope that maybe, someday, I'd have somewhere to wear it. It's simple, black. The hem is a little frayed from too many fitting room mirrors. I hold it up in front of the mirror. He'd said, "Wear something you don't mind ruining. The dress isn't special. Not like the gowns I know are flowing toward the Great Hall right now. It isn't expensive. It doesn't shimmer. But when I picture it ruined, torn, stained, changed by this night into something that can't go back into hiding, it feels right, like a choice." I pull my sweater off. The room is cold. Goosebumps rise along my arms. The mark glows dark and sharp in the dim light. Valen. I trace the V with my fingertip. The motion is half reproach, half something else. You don't get to decide what I am, I tell it quietly, or what this means. Heat flares under my touch, then settles. I slip the dress on. The fabric slides over my skin with a soft sigh, settling around me like spilled ink. It's not perfect. The waist is a little loose. The neckline is higher than anything on the posters downstairs. But the girl in the mirror doesn't look like she's playing dress up. She looks like someone who chose to walk into the lion's den in a $20 dress, and her own stubbornness. My hair refuses to do anything fancy. I twist it up anyway and pin it until it mostly stays. A few strands fall loose around my face. I borrow a swipe of dark berry lipstick from my roommate's side of the dresser. It makes my mouth look like it has opinions. Finally, I roll my left sleeve up. For the first time since that night, I let the mark show. It sits on my wrist like a secret spoken out loud. The letters look darker against my pale skin. The edges are clean and sharp. Not a mistake. Not an accident. An assertion. My heart hammers so hard I feel it in my throat. Rain taps against the window, softer now. The music from the hall seeps through the walls in a dull throb. Somewhere underneath it, I hear the tower bell. 11 chimes. 1 hour. The mark pulses with each toll. I take a breath, then another. I grab the small clutch my roommate left out, just in case, and shove my student ID and a crumpled tissue inside. I have no idea what you're supposed to bring to a ball. I'm halfway to the door when I stop. A feeling rolls over me, a pressure. The air goes still and charged, like the moment before a storm breaks. The mark flares so suddenly I gasp. Heat shoots up my arm and into my chest. Before I can make sense of it, someone knocks. 3 quiet, deliberate taps. My hand freezes on the doorknob. For a heartbeat, the whole world narrows to the strip of wood in front of me and the name burning on my skin. Then, through that thin barrier, his voice. Low, velvet, unmistakable. Elara, Kade Valen says. He sounds like he already knows what I chose. Open the door.